Okay, here's a video that nobody asked for, but it is prom season. And so if you're a photographer from a small town like I am, this is probably an issue that you have dealt with as well. So specifically in my town, there are 5 high schools, and all of the schools have their senior proms at the exact same spot, which often means that I would say 90% of the time, that means the photos that you're going to see on social media from the prom festivities are always going to be from the exact same spots in our small downtown area. So essentially everybody has cookie cutter prom photos. That's just kind of what you get when you have prom photos in a small town. So when my client reached out to me and said, hey, can you take prom photos for my daughter? I said, sure, I have that date open, that's fine. But then she said she wants something different. And that's where I got excited. I said, okay, say less, say no more, something along those lines. And so I had done a little bit of research, and I knew that my client's daughter was a little more on what I would call like the punk rock side. So I drew inspiration from that when she said different. That being said, since their prom was obviously in the same spot, which is at a hotel in our downtown area, I knew that I needed to stay in and around the downtown area in an effort to be respectful of their time so that they could get to prom, all those things. So I immediately started thinking of warehouses, abandoned buildings, the more industrial side of things, as opposed to the really pretty brick, the courtyards and all those things that most people find themselves shooting. So here are a few of my favorite photos from this set. I'll flash them up here on the screen for you to look at. However, I want to take you through a few of these photos and tell you what I was thinking when I shot them, and you can let me know what you think about them. If you think they're terrible photos and that the idea was stupid to begin with, that's also fine, but here we go. Proms are always difficult for me because most people have a prom date. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are dating, right? And so it's vastly different from a family session. It's different than a couple session. It's different than an engagement session. So poses and things like that can be a bit of a challenge. So I always like to start out with something simple. And so Evie is the client's daughter here, and she had this really pretty pink dress, and I really liked what she had going on here. And there was a building with kind of a bland brick wall. I said, hey, let's start right here. And I always like the little awkward, distant hand-holding thing. So this is what we snapped. I said no smiles, so they kind of gave me smirks, and this is what we got. Moving on. Similar thing here. This is the shell of a former warehouse, and all that's kind of standing at this point is this brick facade, this block wall. But there's this funky random door opening that is still just there. And so again, just kind of like the juxtaposition here, and I really like the contrast that her dress pops off from this bland yellow whitish wall. Moving on, there is this abandoned like gas station garage thing on the corner, and the door was open, so I wanted to take advantage of being able to get inside. If you look real close, you can notice this graffiti wall. We took a few photos in front of it. They're pretty cool, but they didn't make my favorite set. Anyways, I like how this door here has these leading lines that kind of lead you to the subject. Again, more lines. And I like the door frame that I included here. The whole thing was me just trying to frame the viewer into this photo. Similar thing here. This is obviously the garage that doesn't even have a roof in the garage area, but doorway is acting as a frame to frame the subject and the viewer's eyes to you. And again, I like how none of the lines are, in my opinion, distracting, and they just kind of help frame and create like a border around the subject. I really, really like all of the textures in this building. I'm a big texture guy, and so I love the dilapidated roof that doesn't exist anymore, the peeling paint. You've still got these old electrical outlets, all of these old shelvings that they probably had product on. Again, they're all just kind of leading your eyes to the subject. In hindsight, I probably should have stamped this particular light pole out, but it's a reflection and it wasn't that noticeable to me until I went to make a video about this. So anyways, they are between this window framing, which again kind of just helps draw your eye into these two lovebirds. Moving on, Evie's like, hey, can we get some of just me? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm playing off of you, so if this is something you would like, let's do it. I said, there's this massive off-white yellowish wall. It would actually make a really cool mural if someone were to decide to paint a massive mural. But anyways, all that said, she's wearing this really vibrant poppy pink dress. There's a lot of P's, actually just 2. But she's wearing this pink dress, and I wanted it to pop off of the background there. And so instead of shooting her flat, I got a little to the side so that the street would kind of help with leading lines. And again, I wanted this grand wide shot of just her on a third walking through, and she gave me the deuces, and this is what we ended up with. Okay, so this is where it gets a little controversial, but not necessarily controversial. You've got people who like hard light. You've got people who hate hard light. It was very overcast when we first got there, but by the time we were wrapping up, we were walking back, and the sun popped out. So I said, okay, typically I like to backlight my subjects, but I really liked the way that the sun was shining on her complexion, her hair, her dress. So I just really liked everything that we had going on here. There was this garage door on this warehouse. I popped her in front of it. She had her bouquet. I have no clue. I'm 34 and I still don't know how to say that word. But anyways, I like this. She does a really, really good no smile. That's partly because she hates to smile. I did get a few smiles out of her that I think she's really proud of. But anyways, I love how her face is so serious and just her eyes are drawn to the camera. So moving on. Same thing. This is in front of a doorway, obviously, but very front lit. Obviously the sun is coming from left to right here as it's casting shadows on this side of her face. But the biggest thing that I can tell you if you're struggling to shoot in what is called hard light, I would very much tell you to underexpose the image in regards to the meter. Typically the meter is going to be -1, -2 if you're going to protect these highlights. And that's what I tried my best to do, was all of the bright spots. I wanted to make sure that there was detail and data there so that there's actually color, and then you can raise it up in post. And with modern cameras, you're still going to end up with pretty clean shadows. So anyways, that's kind of my tip for shooting in harsh light. Again, love the nonchalant smirk that we've got going on here. And I really enjoyed the contrast from the hard light. So moving on to our last photo. This is literally 3 feet away from that doorway that we just showed in that picture, but I really like the yellow and the pink. So this safety yellow railing, I think really contrasts nicely with her pink dress. And this is more of a backlit scenario, but I really just like how everything is sort of framing her. You got all these lines, all the brick leading you to her. This is sort of kind of framing out dead space. Again, probably should have stamped out this particular light pole, but then you would have had this really big bright space. So I don't know, maybe that wouldn't have been the move. So if you're someone who is contracted to shoot senior proms, which a lot of us are this time of year, it can get really, really mundane to shoot the exact same spots, because really at the end of the day, proms they're all the same. It's kids who are graduating that are getting dressed up in nice dresses and tuxedos, possibly coming in nice cars, all these things. But at the end of the day, it's a really upscale formal event where high school seniors are wanting photos. So I find that it can be really difficult to make different photos. So if there's a big tip for this situation, sometimes if you want a different photo, you may just need to take your clients to a different location. Anyway, like I said, I know no one asked for a prom picture video, but this was a set that I was pretty pleased with, and it was a set that I got to be a little bit creative with because the client said she wanted something different. So I wanted to walk you through a few of my thoughts and a few of my favorite photos. Hopefully you enjoyed this style of video because it's pretty fun for me to be able to talk through some of the photos that I've taken. And I may do more of these in the future if it's something that you like. And if for some reason this is the first video of mine that you've seen, I would like to say welcome. And if you would like to, there'll be a subscribe button located right underneath this video, just like there is with every other YouTube video. So if you would like to subscribe, I would appreciate that. I would also like to hear from you guys. If you guys have also felt trapped with prom sessions, because again, if you're shooting in the exact same spots, it can feel a little mundane and a little repetitive. So I would like to hear your thoughts on how you spice those things up from time to time. Keep shooting, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. And if you're a photographer from a small town like I am, that would be a good blooper. And if this is your first time coming to the channel, be sure to subscribe. It's pretty harsh. And if this is the first video that you've watched, and if you're new here, I'd like to ask you to subscribe.